The morning Claire Bennett arrived at the beach house, she didn't expect her life to split in two before noon. The Atlantic wind was sharp, carrying the smell of salt and wet wood as she unlocked the front door. This house had once been her escape, a place where weekends felt longer and promises felt real. She had driven 6 hours from Boston with one simple hope that a few quiet days by the ocean might calm the questions tearing at her chest. Her marriage felt thin, stretched by distance and silence, but she still believed something could be saved. Claire dropped her bag near the stairs and opened the windows. Light rushed in, touching the faded sofa, the framed photos of happier years. The dining table, where birthdays and late-night talks once lived. Everything looked the same, yet nothing felt safe anymore. She was pouring herself coffee when she heard it. A car. Gravel crunching slowly, deliberately, as if the driver had no doubt about being here. Claire frowned. Daniel hadn't said he was coming. He'd said he needed time, space, and that work was overwhelming. She stepped closer to the window, heart quickening. Then she heard laughter. A woman's laugh, soft, bright, and unfamiliar. Claire's breath caught. She stayed still, the mug trembling in her hand. Outside, she saw Daniel step out of the car. Her husband. His shoulders relaxed, his face open in a way she hadn't seen in months. He walked around to the other side and opened the door for a woman Claire had never seen before. The woman stepped out, smiling at the ocean like it was welcoming her home. Claire didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply stood there, watching the truth arrive without knocking. Daniel carried the woman's bag. He pointed toward the house. He laughed again. He had brought her here, to their beach house. Claire moved away from the window before they could see her. Her mind raced, but her body felt strangely calm, like it had been waiting for this moment. She could leave now, slip out quietly, pretend she never saw them. But something rooted her to the floor. She needed to understand. She stayed in the guest room, door closed, listening to their footsteps downstairs. Cabinets opened. The fridge door shut. Their voices drifted up in pieces, casual, comfortable, intimate. It wasn't loud or careless. That almost hurt more. Later that afternoon, Claire stepped outside, steadying herself before walking onto the deck. Daniel froze when he saw her. For a brief second, panic flashed across his face before he forced a smile. "Claire, I didn't know you were coming today." The woman beside him looked confused but polite. "Hi," she said. "I'm Emily." Claire met her eyes. Emily looked warm, not arrogant. Nervous, even. That made everything worse. "I'm Claire," she replied evenly. "Daniel's wife." Silence dropped between them like a heavy curtain. Emily's smile faded. She looked at Daniel, then back at Claire. "You didn't tell me. I thought it would be good for everyone to talk." Daniel interrupted too quickly. "We're all adults." Claire noticed how his hands moved, how he tried to control the moment. He was afraid, but not enough to undo what he'd done. They sat together on the deck, the ocean stretching endlessly in front of them. Claire felt like she was sitting in a stranger's life, watching herself from a distance. Emily spoke first, her voice careful. She talked about her job in Vancouver, her love for painting coastal scenes. How she'd always wanted to see this part of the U.S. she didn't boast. She didn't flirt. She spoke like someone who believed she belonged there. Claire listened, absorbing every detail. Emily was younger, but not reckless. She was kind in a quiet way. That realization hurt more than jealousy. Daniel barely spoke. He stared at the water as if answers might rise from it. As the sun dipped lower, the air cooled. They ate a simple dinner Daniel prepared, passing plates like this was a normal evening. Claire noticed how Emily thanked Daniel, how their hands almost touched, how they pulled back too late. That night, Claire lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling fan. She could hear the ocean and faintly movement down the hall. Doors opening, doors closing. Nothing else. Still, the distance felt unbearable. She thought about the early years of her marriage, late-night talks, shared plans, the certainty that Daniel had once chosen her every day. Somewhere along the way, they had stopped choosing each other. Morning came fast. Claire woke before sunrise and walked down to the beach. The sand was cold, the sky pale and wide. She let the waves wash over her feet, grounding her. This place had always given her clarity, even when the truth hurt. When she returned to the house, Emily was alone on the deck, sketching the horizon. They looked at each other, both knowing this moment could no longer be avoided. "I didn't know," Emily said quietly, closing her sketchbook. "If I had known, I wouldn't have come." Claire studied her face and believed her. "I'm not angry at you," Claire said. "But this house, this life, it wasn't over." Emily's eyes filled, not with guilt, but disappointment. "He told me you were done, that you'd both moved on." The sound of footsteps interrupted them. Daniel appeared, sensing the shift. Emily stood. "You lied to both of us." Daniel tried to explain, but words fell flat. The ocean didn't pause for him. Neither did the truth. Emily packed her things within the hour. She hugged Claire before leaving, a brief, human moment filled with shared loss. Then she walked down the path and disappeared from view. Claire stayed on the deck long after, the wind lifting her hair, the house creaking softly behind her. She realized this was only the beginning, not of an ending, but of something finally being faced. The morning after Emily left, Claire Bennett woke with a strange calm she hadn't felt in months. The ocean was quiet, mist hovering over the waves like a soft blanket, and the air smelled of salt and possibility. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she could think clearly. The house that had held so many memories of laughter, love, and heartbreak was hers, at not least for now. She walked barefoot to the deck, letting the chill of the wooden floor ground her. The sky was painted in shades of pink and orange, reflecting off the water. And she realized how much she had been holding herself back, trapped by uncertainty and fear. The house was silent except for the faint sound of waves. And in that quiet, she felt a spark of courage she hadn't known she still had. When Daniel came downstairs, he didn't speak at first. He just looked at her, trying to read her face. Claire noticed the tension in his shoulders, the hesitation in his step. She realized then that their marriage wasn't just broken, it was fragile, waiting for someone to decide what to do with it. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," Daniel said finally, his voice low and uncertain. Claire studied him. There was guilt there, yes, but also something else, fear, confusion, and maybe even regret. "It happened," she replied calmly. "We can't change it now." Her words weren't cold. They were steady, like she had finally found a way to place herself in the center of the story, instead of letting it spin around her. They sat on the deck together, the space between them wide, filled with years of unspoken words. Claire could feel the memories of better times pressing against her chest, but she didn't let them overwhelm her. She needed clarity, not nostalgia. "I need to know why," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "Why here? Why bring her to this house?" Daniel ran a hand through his hair, his eyes on the horizon. I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. I made mistakes. I don't know what I thought." His words were honest, jagged with emotion, and for the first time, Claire saw the man she had married, not just the one who had strayed, but the one who had loved her once and still carried pieces of that love inside him. Claire didn't answer immediately. She let the waves speak for a moment, letting the rhythm of the tide wash over the tension in her chest. Then she said, "This house remembers us, Daniel. It remembers what we built together. And it's not just about mistakes. It's about respect, honesty. That's what we lost." Daniel's shoulders slumped. "I know. I see that now." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was reflective, like a fragile bridge that might hold if they stepped carefully. Claire realized something important. The beach house wasn't just a place. It was a mirror, showing both their failures and the parts of them that could still choose wisely. Later that morning, Claire decided to walk along the shoreline, letting the sand shift under her feet, feeling the pull of the tide. She thought about Emily, about her kindness, her innocence, and her trust. She realized Emily hadn't been the enemy. The real challenge had been Daniel's choices, his inability to see what he already had. When she returned, Daniel was sitting on the deck staring at the ocean. He didn't speak until she sat beside him. I thought I was losing myself, he said. And in the process, I almost lost you too. Claire looked at him, seeing a mix of shame and vulnerability. Almost lost isn't enough. You hurt both of us. But that doesn't mean everything is over. It means we have to decide what comes next. Daniel nodded slowly. He wanted to reach for her, but Claire didn't move. She wasn't rejecting him. She was asserting herself. He had to earn her trust again, and she had to protect her own heart in the process. Over the next few days, they stayed in the house, navigating the quiet tension with small steps. They cooked meals together, not speaking much, but learning to share space again. Claire noticed how Daniel's gestures had changed, not grand, dramatic apologies, but subtle acts of consideration. He left her coffee where she liked it, fixed the deck chair she had complained about. And finally, one evening asked to walk along the beach with her. The walk was slow, deliberate, and full of unspoken feelings. Claire kept her gaze on the horizon, feeling the wind lift her hair, while Daniel walked beside her, careful not to crowd her. I don't expect forgiveness right away, he said quietly. I just want a chance to show I can be better. Claire considered this. She didn't promise reconciliation. She didn't promise love. She promised only to listen, to see if the man she had married still existed beneath the mistakes. And she saw glimpses, moments when his laughter returned, his old warmth peeking through. One evening they sat on the deck as the sun set, painting the ocean in gold and pink. Daniel reached for her hand. Claire didn't pull away. It was tentative, respectful, a silent acknowledgement that trust was fragile but worth testing. This house, Claire said softly, it's more than walls and windows. It's our history, and history sometimes teaches us more than pain ever could. Daniel squeezed her hand, not demanding, not expecting. Just steady, honest. By the time Emily had left, the house had returned to quiet. But it was no longer empty. It held tension, yes, but also hope. Claire realized that love, even when shaken, could be rebuilt if approached carefully, with honesty and patience. In the days that followed, Claire began to reclaim the house for herself. She rearranged furniture, cleaned rooms that had been neglected, and let the ocean remind her of the steadiness she needed within herself. Daniel supported her without intruding, proving slowly that he was willing to respect her space and her process. The turning point came when they shared a simple dinner on the deck, not out of obligation, not as a performance, but because they wanted to. The conversation was easy, tinged with nostalgia, but grounded in reality. They laughed at old memories, acknowledged the mistakes they had made. And for the first time, neither avoided the other's gaze. Claire realized that the beach house had never really belonged to Daniel or Emily or even just her. It belonged to the moments that shaped them, the laughter, the tears, the choices that tested them. And now it belonged to her again, in a way that was stronger than before. Because she had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and uncertainty and emerged with clarity. As the sun dipped below the horizon on the last evening of her stay, Claire stood on the deck alone for a moment. Letting the waves crash against the shore, she felt a sense of peace, tempered with the understanding that the future was still unwritten. Daniel joined her quietly, not saying anything, just standing beside her, sharing the silence. They didn't need words. The house, the ocean, and the history they shared spoke for them. It was a fragile, beautiful moment, full of promise and caution, of love tested but not destroyed. Claire knew there were hard conversations ahead. Decisions to make about trust and forgiveness, but she also knew she had found herself again. The beach house had given her clarity, strength, and a renewed sense of purpose. As night fell and stars appeared over the water, Claire took a deep breath, feeling the cool ocean air fill her lungs. For the first time in a long time, she felt free, not just from betrayal, but from fear, doubt, and the weight of unspoken truths. She had faced the storm, and while the sea remained vast and unpredictable, she knew she could navigate it. Daniel didn't speak. Claire didn't speak. They simply stood together, side by side, allowing the waves to whisper their own story of forgiveness, resilience, and the fragile, beautiful possibility of love renewed. The beach house, silent and patient, had witnessed heartbreak and honesty, and now it held the promise of something new, not just for Daniel, not just for Claire, but for the life they had yet to choose, together or apart. And in that quiet, the ocean continued to move forward, just like Claire, carrying the lessons of the past into whatever came next.